You live in Birmingham, which is constantly labelled as the most dangerous city in the UK.
I almost have been kidnapped. Go back to your country, stop stealing our jobs,
I've
things like
had it
that.
in Poland.
We know where you live. We're gonna come and.
Oh, did you have the moment that at some point you kept forgetting Polish?
I feel like that's happening right now.
Oh.
All we want is just to have some sort of opportunity, is to have a better life. Yeah, it was a difficult decision for them. I hated them for it, but now I could not imagine myself living in Poland, as an example.
So now all of these bullying for nothing.
The education system in Poland is definitely much higher than professional.
This one as well. Roxie,
Aggie.
there are many stories online about Polish kids in British schools 10, 15 years ago being bullied, excluded, or even attacked. Mm-hmm. How close these stories were to your reality?
I mean, it was quite frequent that I have been bullied back in the day, mainly I'd say during primary and secondary school. Because when you move from for example, I moved from Poland to England when I was 9 years old. Yeah. So when I went to my primary school, first ever one, there was maybe a few Polish children as well. But funny thing is, I was bullied by them. Rather than helped, I was sort of given the wrong information. So when I was learning the English language, they would rather tell me the wrong words for different items. On purpose.
Okay.
So for example, I know it sounds silly, like an eraser. They would say it was like a ruler. I know it's a very small difference, but it would be like that and it would be escalating to the point where I would be learning English, not in the right way, if that makes sense. So it started off with the sort of primary school. Then I had to change to a different primary school where I've been in a group with, English children. They were teaching me all the bad words, all the swear words, all the wrong things to say. So I would naturally follow them and, I would be thinking again, what am I saying? This is not right. So it was a bit of wrong information given to me, me not being taught the right way for a very long time. And in secondary school, when I went, I was still struggling with my English. So I had to have a translator with me.
A Google translator online or a person who was following you?
An actual person.
Okay.
So it would be lessons with the translator sat next to me translating what was going on during the lesson.
How did it look like?
It was very embarrassing at times because it's a grown-up adult is sat right next to you in a class full of, let's say, 20, 30 children. And you're just next to this woman and, she's translating to you in your mother language what things mean. And, you kind of feel like you're the odd one out in the class because you're sat with an adult, right? So it was a bit weird. But, yeah, during that time in secondary school, I would also, sometimes get chewing gum thrown in my hair. Sometimes I would have, guys sort of push me around or just sort of say, you're Polish, go back to Poland. What are you doing here? Why are you in our country? And, as you progress, you sort of become a teenager. And then it comes to a time where they're like, oh, you're stealing our jobs or all these different things. And I'm just I'm just living here. I just want to literally, earn money and live and, earn and go to my education and, things like that. So it's been a bit of a roller coaster.
What about teachers? Did they react at all?
There's been times where teachers would put me and other individuals into this class, where usually the tensions happen. But they would put us into a class and then we'd have to speak about it. And then she would sort of have to tell them off about it.
With the bullies?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was you, Robert, Stewart, and the teacher?
Yeah, pretty much.
And how did it look? How did they conduct these conversations?
Most of the times it would be a sort of situation where she would say, it depends which school, because some schools there was, for example, no Polish people at all, and in some school there were Polish people. So in the school that I was in, where there was no Polish, children, the teacher would sort of say, in our class we have only one Polish student. and we need to like make her feel welcome. You can't be doing this, you can't be doing that. It's unfair because she's struggling like with the language, like, because I think at the time I could maybe speak like 20, 30 words in English. I could not make sentences as much. So that was like another problem. So then the bullies had to apologize to me in front of the teacher, and then we sort of, you know, get along sometimes. But things would always come back with different people anyway.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's been like a roller coaster of like different things, because it was in school, it was outside of school. It would have been to the point where I used to get phone calls as well, where this one girl used to like threaten me, saying she will do things to me. She knew where I live. She knew, you know, things like that. And she was sort of trying to threaten me to say, you know, we'll do all these things to you. And that was the point where I sort of reported it to my parents. Had to go to the police about it, report it at the police station, because it was getting quite heavy. Like when I was like a teenager, maybe 15, 16, something like that.
Yeah.
So
you moved in when you were 9 years old. How did your English look like? You mentioned it was such a basic vocabulary and everything. You had to have a translator. So I assume that your accent also wasn't the best.
Back then, it was a very Polish accent. So I could, like I said, I could only speak around 20 to 30 words, maybe not even be able to build sentences, not even understanding anything that was said to me. I remember when I was in my first primary school in the UK, and I had to write down on my hand with a pen, can I go to the toilet? Because I didn't know how to say, can I go to the toilet? I had to write it down, but there was no piece of paper next to me. So I was just writing on my hand, can I go to the toilet?
Oh no, and
I
you
would
have to raise everything.
I would put my hand up, like, to notify the teacher that I need something, and I would just show her my hand, and then she'd be like, yes, you can go to the toilet.
Did she say it out loud?
No. She would not say out loud, but she was just like, yes, you can go.
Just nodding.
Yeah.
You mentioned about threats. What type of threats there were? This one girl that you mentioned?
So when I was around, I believe I was 15, 16, you know, going through my like GCSE stages, it was a girl, well, it was a girl's voice. She rang from like a private number. So I didn't really know who it was. I could only assume. I knew there was like a group of girls of a different nationality were in a completely different school to mine, which was like maybe 20 minutes away from my school, like a, you know, driving distance. So I was aware that there's a group of people that didn't like me, but I didn't know exactly if it was because of me being Polish or, again, like something to do with the language. I wasn't too sure. But the sort of threats were phone calls, which were, you know, from the private number that said things like, do you want me to like say it? Or
if it contains swear words, no, but more or less.
So it would be on the lines of, we know where you live, we're going to come and...
Okay.
So it was quite intense. It was very emotional.
How old were they?
They would probably be my age, or maybe even a little bit older, maybe 17, maybe 18. I have no idea. Okay. But until this day, I'm not 100% sure who it was. I can only guess, you know. So it was a bit of a situation, because police had to get involved basically with the whole situation. But all they did was just basically note it down, and they said, if it happens again, let us know. But then it didn't happen after that, you know, major like phone call, and it was just kind of dropped. So yeah, it was a bit scary, like, you know, just sort of going out the house and thinking, you know, those people know where I live.
Yeah, what's
going to happen after?
Yeah.
So
wow.
Yeah, it's been intense.
When was the moment that you realized that English wasn't a problem anymore?
I'd probably say around year 8, year 9, when I was, oh my gosh, how old was I? Around 13, maybe 14 years old.
So that was quick. That was quick.
Yeah, it was quite quick, because I had the translator lady who was helping me quite a lot. But that was mainly for, I think it was the first 3 years of me being in the UK. So when I was in year 5, year 6, year 7. So during secondary school, around year 8, that's when I started to understand more and more. I had a better group of friends who actually helped me out this time, rather than, you know, being like the previous people. And I would probably say, you know, my parents also helped out quite a lot, because, for example, my mum, she would always, every single day when I used to come back from school, I would do spelling tests with her. So she would test me on, let's say, 10 words a day, how to spell it, how to pronounce it, how to, just go through the words in like every single day or every 2 or 3 days or something like that. So I would always have the support of my parents and, the teachers in school as well. I was a bit in like the lower classes for English because of the, the language barrier and things like that. But I slowly started going up when, the more revision that I was doing, the more, my friends were helping me, my parents were helping me. So yeah, it's been a journey.
Okay, let's brighten up the energy a little bit more.
Okay.
We're moving to fake facts. This segment is a new one. How it works: you will tell me 4 facts about yourself. One of them, of course, related to languages, related to cultures or your experiences. One of them is fake and I have to guess. I have to remember all of them, and at the end of the whole thing, I have to guess which one was fake.
I have lived in Greece. I speak 4 languages fluently. I almost have been kidnapped.
Now I don't know if you're lying or if you're actually thinking of a true scenario.
To lie or not to lie, or have I lied already?
I have to remember.
Okay, I'm a model.
Oh
gosh, that sounded so bad. Okay, or I do modeling.
Okay, so the first one I already forgot, but I knew that definitely the second one was incorrect, was the fourth one. I'll explain. The first one was about Greece. You lived in Greece because, as you will know in a few seconds, you are with a beautiful, super handsome Greek man. Is that correct?
Of course.
Okay, the second one, languages. You do understand 4 languages, or you are learning 4 languages, but I don't believe that you speak them fluently. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, cool. These languages are?
Polish, English, Spanish, Greek.
Okay, Greek, of course. I'm also on my Greek journey. Then kidnapped. What do you mean?
Almost been kidnapped.
Tell me.
That was in Tunisia. I was on a holiday with my parents and we were staying in a hotel, which was, safe. It was great and everything, close to the beach, close to the city centre. And the one night, my parents were on a balcony. They were, just eating, talking, drinking, things like that. And my mom has noticed that all of a sudden the lock from the door has dropped in the inside the room. And back then we had 3 different beds, 3 single beds that we connected together so we can all sleep together as a family.
Yeah.
My mom, my dad and their friend on the balcony. And I was sleeping with the, the 3 beds put together, in the middle somewhere. And she noticed that, the lock has literally dropped from the door. Someone's trying to come in and there was a mattress right next to the door where the friend was sleeping. And she has noticed a black figure coming in through the door. And she goes to my dad Marcin, there's someone at the door, can you do something about it, basically, with the friend. There's someone literally coming inside. Yeah. And it was maybe 1 a.m, 2 a.m, so it was quite late. And it's almost, it's someone knew that we were staying there, that, there was a child. Because I feel back then, it was very common to, kidnap children for specific things. 2007. 2006, 7. Okay. So, back then I had very long brown hair, blue eyes, tanned. It's let's steal her and sell her, basically,
okay.
So I think it's because, I don't know if I can talk about this or not.
Go on.
I don't know. I feel back then my parents maybe made some extra friends on the holiday, and you know what it's like, they're being...
Yeah, you never know. Then you reveal too much by accident, and then wow,
exactly.
And it was a hotel.
It was in a hotel, yeah. So the security has been informed I think the same night, and they asked my parents if they wanted, extra bodies around. So they said yes, obviously, because, could have kidnapped. I could have not been here right now doing this podcast because of this. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So they asked for more security, and they asked if my parents wanted to change the room. But I don't think they agreed to the room because it was the last night of us staying there anyway. I think we were going the day after. A bit of a story back in the day.
Whoa, I forgot the 4th fact, Did the police react? What did you do? So they reported you to the police, to the hotel service? How did it look?
So they never really told me the exact facts because I was young at the time. Yeah. But I found out about it maybe 4 years later when I was 11, 10, 11 or something like that, they told me this situation happened. Because, you know, when you're at family gatherings and they sort of explain the situation to your family, your uncles, your aunties, what happened, and you just overhear things. That was me. I was overhearing. I was like, what? I almost been kidnapped? What do you mean?
Yeah.
So I'm not 100% sure what they did after, but I know security was informed, police was informed, because it's like, you know, someone almost came in. And also when my dad and the friend realized they were running away, they tried running after them in the corridors.
Okay.
But because there was windows, how do I say it? At the very end of the corridors, there was like a window, which was, it wasn't too high up, it wasn't too like lower down. It was like in the right sort of way for him to escape through it. So they believe that he literally, or she, the ninja, they call them, I don't know, or her, the ninja.
Difficult Polish
Literally.
wording.
Just jumped up and climbed through the window and escaped. So that's what I've been told. That's all I know. So
Okay, and also the fourth fact, you're a
yeah.
model. Okay, obviously.
yeah.
Well, your friends were sleeping in on Saturdays.
Mm-hmm.
You had to go to Polish school. How did it look like? So you went from Monday to Friday to a regular English speaking school, whatever, and then on Saturdays, Polish school?
Yeah, that's correct. So yeah, normal sort of, you know, English hours of school, Monday to Friday, probably like what, 9 till 3?
Yeah.
Something like that. But I would probably stay a bit after as well, because I was a bit of a nerd. I was doing, you know, languages, all the creative subjects. I was staying after. With Polish school, so I would probably, I think, wake up similar. So 9 o'clock, just on a Saturday, until 1 in the afternoon. So it would be 4 hours. 4 hours of, you know, Polish school every Saturday.
Are you aware how Polish school looks in Poland? If you have to compare.
If I had to compare, I mean, when I was in school in Poland, I would have been 9. So they had a bit of a different teaching system to, you know, compared to the English school at the same age. It was harder on you. It was, you know, you had to know so much information, so much about grammar, so much about everything in Poland. It was very strict. I was taught by nuns in my school in Poland.
Okay.
So
obviously.
yeah, obviously. So it was those sort of days. I don't know if I'm not sure if they still teach, if nuns still teach in Poland or not.
In some schools, yeah.
It does. They do.
Yeah.
They do. Oh, okay. So yeah, it was sort of like very serious, very on edge at times, because, you know, I think back in the day, like a teacher could even grab a ruler and just hit you in the hand or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, whereas in England that would not be allowed.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
But in England you cannot scream on a child.
Yeah, you cannot do anything to the child, like nothing.
You have to be like, oh, sorry that you fired up our whole home.
Yeah, I'm sorry you're misbehaving, but yeah.
Yeah. What I was thinking when I asked about comparing is, of course, in Polish schools, the whole program and material and everything is a bit different. You have more time. I assume in the Polish English school, you had, how often did you have to go there? Once a week, once 2 weeks?
So it was once a week, every Saturday, 4 hours every Saturday. And we would have, like, as an example, we'd have Polish geography, Polish history lesson, Polish literature, and also there was something else. I think Polish grammar or something to do with that sort of subject, I believe. But as you know, as you sort of grow and you have to do your GCSEs and your A levels, it would have get a little bit more difficult. So during like the sort of A level stage, we'd have to do translation, we'd have to do English texts translated to Polish, and then vice versa as well. And we'd have to read a lot of books, watch a lot of movies, sort of like speak about them, explain what's happening, just so we're like understanding as well. And it was, you know, the sort of reading, listening, writing and speaking as well.
Did you have the moment that at some point you kept forgetting Polish?
I feel like that's happening right now.
Oh. So now all of these bullying for nothing.
Yeah, pretty much. No, I feel like right now I'm at this stage where, so I speak to my parents in Polish every single day. I speak to my friends in Polish, but at work I must speak in English because obviously no one speaks in Polish. So because I speak because I speak English on a daily basis, I'm slowly starting to forget Polish, or I'm speaking Ponglish at times. So I speak English, I put a Polish word in, and then English, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm starting to forget a little bit more now that I'm getting older.
What's something people often misunderstood about growing up abroad or moving to a new place in such an early age?
I would probably say what people misunderstood the most would be sort of understanding how much, like, be understanding what an individual had to go through on that journey from moving, you know, from one country to another. Because, like, in schools, as an example, they might think, oh, there's a new girl, oh, she can barely speak English, or like, why is this school allowing it, or, you know, why is that reason, you know, why is that happening? Whereas, you know, the way I sort of experienced it was, I'm moving away from everything that I knew to be my home. I'm moving away from all my family, my, you know, grandparents, my aunties, uncles, cousins, best friends, to a completely new area I've never known about, and trying to learn about it at the same time, trying to learn the language, trying to learn the culture, see how other, you know, children my age or adults are behaving, or what is right, what is wrong, because every single, you know, school has like their differences as well. So I think what they might not understand as much is the journey of, you know, how much a person has gone through. So how they've been like struggling, whether it's, you know, with even living in the area they're living in now, what they had to, you know, sort of build from the start. Because it's easy to, you know, it's easy for the people here to live the life in a way like that's all they've ever seen. That's all they've ever been growing up with. Whereas for me, it's like I moved from one place to another. I've seen this side, I miss home. It's emotional, you know, you go through so many different emotions. And I feel like that might be like the sort of thing people might not understand as much about moving from like schools to countries. So, yeah.
Did you ever think, why did your parents come up with such a decision?
You know what? I was thinking about it 24/7, and I hated them for it, because I had my best friends, I had everything in Poland, and I did not want to move when I was 9. But now that I'm older, I understand more how, why, and now I understand more the reason why. Because, you know, in Poland, it was so difficult back in the day because, you know, financially, we were living with our grandparents. Oh. So there was 5 of us in a house, whereas only 2 bedrooms. So, you know, it's that sort of situation where you're either going to grow up into a teenager still living with your parents and grandparents all crammed in one little, you know, apartment, or you're going to try and do something else and move somewhere else to get a better life, to get more opportunities out there. So the way I see my parents' decision now is only for the better, because they risked everything. They risked like absolutely everything, you know, their jobs, their connections, all the friendships, all the jobs that they've had in Poland. You know, my mum was very high up, my dad was high up, and then when they moved to England, they sort of started working at basic jobs at first, whether it's, you know, delivering parcels or cleaning or things like that. And, you know, now they're slowly, you know, going up. Then they slowly started going up throughout the years. And, you know, just in general, the English sort of currency was higher and is still higher than the Polish currency. So for them, it was just to move, just to have a better life, have their own house, and, you know, for the child to have better opportunities in life. So, you know, you hear so many people saying to Polish people, go back to your country, you know, stop stealing our jobs, things like that.
In Poland, it was said to me, but it was about Russia, where I'm not even from.
Oh my gosh. But you know what I mean? They kept saying it, but in reality, all we want is just to have some sort of opportunity, is to have a better life, just to, you know, have our children grow up with like the best education possible, you know? Yeah. So yeah, it was a difficult decision for them. I hated them for it, but now I could not imagine myself living in Poland, as an example. So yeah.
Do you think they had to come back to the beginning when it comes to their work life because of also their English?
100%, yeah, because they barely spoke any English as well. They were working with mainly Polish people. So the way it was, my dad's brother, he found him a job in the UK, and then my dad came over. So I was living with my mom and grandparents in Poland for a very long time. And then after a year, I think, or two, me and my mum went to the UK to move in with dad, because he was, I don't know where he was living. I think with either his brother or with a friend or someone with work. Not with work. But you know what I mean? Like, he was living with someone, trying to get as much money as possible to send over to the, not UK. He was trying to save as much money as possible to send it back to us to Poland. So then we can, you know, use that for any sort of, whether it's education, whether it's, you know, just normal everyday life products or anything like that. And then to eventually move out of Poland to the UK. So yeah, we had to move everything. We had the vans, we had everything packed in them, and then they moved us to the UK, and then we took the flight. So
such a beginning.
It's been crazy, yeah.
We went to the same university. That's a funny story. But do you have friends who went to Polish universities, for example? Are you aware how it looks there, if you had to also compare to what we went through in the UK?
At the top of my head, I can't think of anyone that has gone to a Polish university, except for maybe some of my old friends that I haven't spoken to in a while. But from like what I'm aware of is the education system in Poland is definitely much higher than the one in UK, or at least what I had to deal with in my university. So
what did you study?
I studied makeup and hair design.
So how did it look like? If you have to explain all of the classes to me, because I know how mine looked. I'm not going to admit which course I was studying because I already see the comments and everything, so I'll just ignore that fact. But I would gladly listen to your response.
I mean, my course was super fun. Like, I love the tutors. They definitely opened more of a creative side of me that I didn't know that I had, and they were very motivational. They were very supportive in general. But when it comes to the course itself, I feel like there could have been more things added to it. And also, I was stuck during COVID times, so everything was closed. So even though I did makeup and hair design, we also did photography, and we learned about like the studio lighting and, you know, all the bits and bobs. And, you know, during COVID, we could not go to the makeup studios. We could not go to the photography studios.
Yeah.
I was in third year when I was supposed to be doing my dissertation, my, final major project, which is the biggest thing you can do at university. And, you know, it gets you through the door, of the career. I was stuck in that sort of COVID lockdown period during my third year. I could not create my portfolio. I had to work on myself. I had to even break the rules of lockdown and ask my friend to come over just so I can do like a makeup on her or just to practice, because how is a professional makeup artist going to show up to like an event, let's say London Fashion Week, and not be able to show a portfolio because she hasn't got one because of COVID?
Did they allow you to go to London Fashion Week? I mean, I know I'm shocked for purpose for the audience.
I did London Fashion Week after COVID, but it was very strict because we had to wear like the special visors. So we would have like the glasses, we'd have the visor, like the shield. So we wouldn't, like if we speak, no particles would go onto like the models. Mm-hmm. And then we had to have a face mask on top of it as well. So when I was doing Fashion Week, one model after a model after a model and constantly changing because, you know, we had the lead makeup artist who was telling us how to do the looks. Mm-hmm. If something was wrong, you had to rub it out, do it again. It was very like intense. But I was sweating under that visor. I had everything. I was so hot. I could barely breathe. And then I had the mask on as well. So like in between, I just tried to drink as much water as possible just to stay hydrated. But yeah, it was a great experience overall when it comes to, you know, the university, the life, the sort of, you know, the tutor side and stuff like that. But the actual education, I feel like there could have been more, more about it, like more added to it. Yeah. And I feel like there should have been more support when it comes to, you know, whether you can access the studios or not. So like during the COVID time. So it was a bit all over the place.
Also, the timing of classes, because what I notice is all of my Polish friends, because my Polish friends actually have a lot who went to Polish universities, it was every single day, Monday to Friday, from the early day to the evening, and they afterwards, same, they were learning and all of that. And when it comes to my classes, I remember on my masters, I was full-time. I had only 2 days, but 2 days not packed, but 2 hours. On Tuesday and on Thursday, an hour. And it was a full time.
That's crazy, because I had nothing like like you've mentioned about your Polish friends at the universities. Yeah. My classes would look like, as an example, 4 classes a week in the first year, maybe similar in second year, but during the third year, I've not had that many classes. Sorry, by 4 classes, I mean, I don't mean 4. I mean like 4 days out of 5 as an example. But it wouldn't be so packed. It would be maybe one day I'd go to university for 2 hours, and then they expect me to do another 2 hours in my own time to do research, to do things like that. But majority of my classmates, they were just going out.
That's my next question as well.
Oh my God, they were partying like crazy. I mean, I was partying probably partying like crazy as well at some points. But that was first year when everything was easy. Not everyone took it seriously at all.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I had even a friend who I think didn't pass because she wasn't coming into classes, but they gave her so many resources just to, to pass the whole thing, which was crazy. But she still didn't pass. But I don't know, it was crazy. Also on the third year, I wasn't even attending. and that was okay. They were okay with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like with the attendance, as long as you have a certain amount of attendance, they can potentially pass you. But then again, if you don't, then they won't,
Coming back to your university and your subjects, did you have any business side of it there? Because I remember when it comes to mine, I'm still not going to reveal my course. But when it comes to mine, I don't know, they were thinking that we were stupid or something like that. We had literally a whole class about making CVs. And you know what they were doing? They were putting like a template of the CV and with like wrong pictures that you shouldn't be putting in your CV. And back in the day in Snapchat, you had this like dog filter effect. And they're like, you shouldn't be putting this type of pictures on you. I'm like, are you serious? Do you think that we're some kind of, okay, but... I'll let you speak. I just had to show my aggression towards that.
I mean, yes, there was a situation with the CV pictures as well, how apparently you shouldn't use picture on your CV because it's not professional.
This one as well.
But then as a creative, I do, and no one's going to stop me.
Yeah, people can still check your LinkedIn.
Exactly. So. I mean, yeah, that's true. But yeah, anyway, we did do a business side. I think it was the second year of university we did it, and it was related to makeup and hair because of so yeah, there was a business side linking to makeup and hair design sort of course where they were going through like how to start your own business, how to register as self-employed, how to, deal with your taxes and, things like that. But also how to insure your, makeup kit, because the amount of times, makeup artists can lose it during traveling. True. Or someone can, steal it. You never know. You have to have that sort of insurance for your products. Also, they showed us, how LinkedIn works, how to write the CV, how to do all the, sort of email-y side of things, which was really good. It was very helpful at times because, if you were to start off on your own just like that, okay, what do you do now? You'd probably go to ChatGPT and it would have all the answers for you. But at university it was nice because you could, sit down with a qualified tutor and ask them about anything or their sort of experience like in the field, whether it's, to do with their own sort of company that they had, or whether it was like a tutor that did makeup for TV and film, like on set with actors. So you had so many different experiences from your tutors, which was like really nice to have, just to have that extra information.
We're moving to hot shots. This is the part when we're choosing a perfect future husband for you. I'm aware about the Greek guy, just country by country, but based on the personality only.
Okay.
Okay, you're ready. Polish or Italian?
I don't know. I'd probably say Italian.
The reason is?
They seem more loving. I don't know why.
And they don't pay you on your first date.
They what?
They don't pay.
What, Italians?
Huh?
I don't know.
I'm telling you. Okay, Italian or Albanian?
Italian.
Italian or Spanish?
Spanish.
Spanish or Argentinian? I don't know how to... Never mind.
Argentine. Spanish.
Spanish or Peruvian?
Spanish.
Wow. Spanish or Serbian?
Spanish.
Spanish or Brazilian?
Spanish.
Oh, it's going to be hard.
I'm sorry.
Spanish or... No, let's remove this Spanish from the equation. Albanian or Polish?
Polish.
Polish or Serbian?
Polish.
Polish or Russian?
Polish.
Polish or Ukrainian?
Polish.
Polish or Belarusian?
Polish.
Polish or Croatian? You know, hot
Polish.
weather. Polish or Bulgarian?
Polish.
Okay, so you just want to be with a Polish guy.
No.
Okay, Polish or...
You haven't even asked about any Greeks.
Or French.
Polish or French?
Yeah. Polish who's going to beat you at home, or French who's going to be out...
I'm not into French. Never have, never will.
Okay, so Polish, yeah?
Polish.
Polish or... what other country exists? Mexican.
Polish.
Polish or Peruvian?
Polish.
Polish or Mongolian?
Polish.
Polish or Japanese?
Japanese?
Yeah.
Oh, Polish.
Polish or Chinese?
Polish.
Can you stop?
Can
Polish or Italian?
Polish or Italian? Italian.
I thought you were forgetting. Okay, so I think Italian or Greek?
Greek.
Why?
It's a difficult one because my Greek.
You're like a typical side of Polish women comes out of you, because that's how Polish women speak about their husband. My whatever is at home.
Mój Grek. No, because my boyfriend, he's half Greek, half Italian. But I feel like because I get to see more of his Greek side, like he grew up more Greek than Italian, like literally in Athens, in Naxos. He's been growing up in like different islands. Basically, I've seen how he's behaving and how he's been brought up. And I feel like for Greeks, they really care about their family. They're probably like the most important people in their life. Like they would always find time for them. And they're always very, how do I explain it? Just in general, very welcoming. They're very helpful, like in every situation. And I feel like that just shows like through the personality, you know? I don't know. I just feel like Greek.
So do Polish people, and you didn't choose a Polish one? But
I mean,
when I asked you Polish, Greek, no, I didn't ask. Never mind. Yeah.
The thing is, with Polish people, they are very welcoming.
Yeah.
They are very family orientated as well. They're, how do I say it? They are a little bit judgmental. I'd say.
A little bit, very much.
A little bit too much judgmental.
Whatever you do, you'll be judged.
Exactly. But I feel like when it comes to qualities in a man, I would go more for Greek than Polish, even though, you know, I've been brought up Polish. I've got, everyone in my family is Polish. There's no mix in my family when it comes to Polish and a different language. It's just pure Polish blood. I would not go for my own blood anymore.
Interesting. So why do you think you ended up with someone from a different culture? Just because, or you just were never...
I mean, I feel like from when I was a child, when I was a little girl, I always had it like sort of imprinted in my head that, you know, I'm Polish, I must be with a Polish guy. And I always had that at the back of my head as I was growing up. So I had like Polish partners along the way. But then it got to the point where, now we're speaking about the personality differences, I saw a lot of downfalls in Polish men's personalities than I have in, for example, English or like, I don't know, Spanish or German. No, not German. I've never been with a German. Oh my God, crop.
Or Japanese or whatever.
Japanese. No. No, I just saw like the differences in a Polish guy and then differences in someone that doesn't speak my language, you know? Yeah, I feel like over the years I've been let down as well quite a lot by just in general my own people. So I was just like, you know, let's just move away. Let's not go for them anymore, because I don't know, they're just very, even though they are like family orientated and they, you know, they're very friendly, they're very caring, I feel like at the same time they are way too judgmental. And, you know, I'm the sort of person, like, I'm judgmental as well, but there's a difference in being respectful and disrespectful.
Yeah.
And there's just been too many occasions, and I'm not talking about one person, I'm talking about like 4 or 5 different ones, just super disrespectful.
Name them. I'll tag all of them.
No. No.
Do you speak English with him?
With Archie?
With Archie,
do I mention or do I not mention?
Do you speak English with him?
Yeah, we speak English on a daily basis. We communicate in English as like our first language. But now that I'm learning Greek and he's learning Polish, we sort of start to like mix it up a bit. So there's a bit of like Polish words added. There's some Greek words added into like the English mix. So we sort of trilingual language conversation.
Why do you think it's important to learn your boyfriend's language, for example? Or is it?
Of course it's important.
Explain.
Like if you really see yourself with someone, marrying them, having a family and living together in the future, I think there's nothing more important than learning their language, because it's not just about like respect and, you know, just being respectful to their language, to their culture and things like that, but it's mainly like, okay, we're going to have children. What language are the children going to be speaking in?
What's the plan?
Okay, so we basically, when we have children, we're going to speak Greek first because it's more difficult, and then going to teach them Polish at home. So Greek with the dad, Polish to me, you know? So it's like when they want something from the dad, they speak Greek to the dad. When they want something from the mum, they speak in Polish to the mum. So there's no crossover. Even though me and my partner would speak in English, we wouldn't like in front of the children, because my sort of goal is to be able to speak Greek really well when it comes to that time. It's still a while, but anyway. So I think Greek and Polish first, because English is a bit easy to learn. So they will pick it up in school anyway. But if they know, okay, mum Polish, dad Greek, that's all that matters, you know? You just sort of start learning the language, because children are like sponges. They literally soak up any education at like the early stages. So I think that's like the sort of goal there.
Same like you did, actually, at the beginning. It was hard, because 9 years old, but still, you said around 13, you already were fixed.
No, of course, yeah. But like another thing as well, I'd say learning your partner's language, not only just to speak to the sort of children, like in the future, like if you see them seriously as part of your life, but also to be able to communicate with their family.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I think it's so important because, for example, certain like grandparents, they don't speak English. So it's sort of on you at the same time. Like if you want to show that you care, you at least, you know, thank you in their language, or at least, you know, how are you? Or just to make a basic conversation at first. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's all about trying. As long as you try, even saying a few words, you know, to the parents, to the grandparents, family in general, they see you as this little shiny diamond. Because they're so happy, like, wow, they went out of their own way to learn the language just to speak to us, you know?
True.
So, you know, it's that way. And it's the same way for my parents as well. If they hear my partner speaking Polish to them,
they'll be all over the place.
Overwhelmed, like, do you want some schnitzel? We'll cook you some good Polish dinner. Have some vodka with us. Come drink it. Like, you know, the typical Polish people, you know, offering food and drinking. Yeah. So that's the sort of plan, yeah.
It's also good because you're meeting the original person. If you're learning the language, it's the original version of your boyfriend. It's not this English version who is saying I love you, you know, or like thank you is Efcharistopoli, you know. It's a different thing. Exactly. Because also words, they have different meanings in different languages. So that's a very, very good move, I would say.
No, exactly. Especially because like people say, oh, you'll never be able to, like, for example, if you're speaking in English to each other, then it's like, oh, you'll never be able to understand my real personality, my language, because you don't speak it. But then once you learn it as well, slowly, that personality starts shining through in Polish, in English, and then in Greek. So it's like even though I'm such a bubbly person in English, my personality in Polish is more like, you know, chill.
Yeah.
More that sort of Slavic look, you know. No, I'm
see, I
joking.
understand.
You know what I
And
mean?
how is it in Greek
In Greek,
or Spanish?
what, my personality?
Yeah.
I'd say in Greek, as I'm like still on like a beginner level, it's very over the top. So like, you know, I go to the shops, I'm like, Kalimera, Tikante, you know, it's just like still trying to learn about the formal and informal ways of, you know, speaking to Greek people. But it's very bubbly, I'd say. It's very, very out there. It might be exaggerated sometimes because of the way I am. When I'm learning, I'll try to exaggerate things to myself just so I remember the words.
That's the way. I also really agree with that
Exactly.
method.
Otherwise, I'm like, what's the point of learning if you're not putting all of your energy into it?
Yes and no. Yes and no.
Depends, but yeah, that's how I feel like.
So you speak English with him, but even if your English is crazy fluent, did you have any moments when you couldn't fully express in English only? That you were like, oh, I wish you knew Polish.
There were definitely times where I could have just, you know, even swearing in Polish and swearing in English is two completely different things.
Yeah.
You cannot express yourself the same way swearing in English and swearing in Polish.
Yeah.
It's two completely different things.
Were you ever translating in your head a language? Let's say at the beginning, maybe, you know, from Polish to English and then do you support that method? What do you say about that?
Translating in my head, I mean, it happens a lot. It used to happen a lot when I was growing up because it's like you try to remember a word and you can't. So usually you try translating in your head at first and then you go into, you know, back then it was books, it was dictionaries, and then, you know, Google Translate after a while. But I'd probably say right now I just speak. So like right now we're speaking, I'm just speaking in English. I'm not even thinking about the translation from Polish to English. I'm just speaking my thoughts.
Yeah. We're moving to the opposition. The task is you will randomly pick a life scenario and give me your strong opinion on how you would approach language learning in this case, defending this claim or defending whatever, if you agree, like this method. And I would disagree with you. Even if I actually agree with you in real life, I'll be extremely annoying. But it's just the goal is for us to argue.
You're dating someone from this country.
Okay, how you would approach this situation about like language learning wise?
I mean, this is very, very relatable to me right now. Dating someone from this country, I must learn their language.
The person speaks English now?
Yeah.
So why would you learn a language if they speak English? You can communicate.
What? Sorry.
You have to fight with me.
Okay. What? So this?
You have to defend your opinion.
Wait,
yeah?
but I can speak English already.
Yeah, but what do you mean? Yeah, you speak English already, but so English is enough, or is it?
But they speak English.
Yeah, they speak English.
Okay, so I need to learn English to speak with them.
What's written on there?
You're dating someone from this country.
So let's pick a country.
Okay, Greece.
So what? You need to learn the language. That's a life scenario. Do you agree that you need to learn the language, or do you think that there's no need? Pick a stance.
I think there is need to learn someone's language, like for example Greek.
Okay, I don't agree.
Why?
Because you have English.
Yeah, you can communicate in English, but you will never be able to understand them in their own language.
That's okay. You don't need to know everything.
But you do, because it's like their personality. It's the whole character. Do you know what I mean?
But you don't need to know everything. The more intelligent people, there are, more depressed. So why would you know everything?
The more intelligent people learn more languages.
But why? What's the point of learning languages?
Because then you can speak to more people that are not also that partner.
Everyone speaks English.
Okay, but in Greece, when you go visit, like me, in Athens, in Naxos, in Mykonos, any island, there's still people that do not speak English, and you must still communicate with them.
So don't go there.
What if you want to go on holiday? You don't know where to go because everyone
you have your boyfriend and he speaks Greek. So you'll be just tell this and he'll do it.
Okay, but then if, for example, scenario, he's with his friends, they all speak in Greek because some of them might not be able to speak English, then I know how to speak Greek. I know what they're talking about.
If you really trust him, he will tell you what they were talking about. And if he's a really good person, so you don't need to learn a language. Okay, I won. Pick a different one.
You're bad at languages and you failed before.
Mm-hmm. What's your opinion? What should you do in this situation when it comes to language learning? Would you learn a language if you're bad in it and you already failed before, would you still take this opportunity or no?
I mean, I never give up. I always try, regardless of how many times I failed. I still get up and learn.
Why? Why?
Because then I can be multilingual.
What's the point? It's not what multilingualism will give you.
It can give you more jobs in the future.
Okay.
It can, just in general, let you communicate with a wider audience.
Okay. Still same argument, I see. That's not bad. It's not bad because I don't know what to answer. Keep going.
Exactly. Well, first of all, if someone's failing, why are you failing? You can always try different things, like different ways of learning, because then again, you're testing your brain. The more and more you learn of a new language, you're testing more of your brain.
Why do you need to test your brain?
To get smarter.
There are many different things that are more exciting.
Girl, if it gets into your long-term memory, apparently it's been said, the more you study, like let's say, for example, you're learning one word 7 times. Mm-hmm. You'll learn it after you read it 7 times.
Yeah.
And then it gets into your head, right? But if you do it the 6th time, you're failing 6 times, but then the next time, 7th time, okay, you'll learn it.
Okay, never mind. It's very hard to debunk that because I also don't give up. Let's choose the last one. Because I don't admit that I lost, but...
You're shy and hate group classes.
So you're in this scenario, you're shy, you hate group classes. And would you learn a language because you're shy and you hate group classes?
If I'm shy and hate group classes, I'd probably be that I'd probably be that person at the very back of the class and just...
You can not agree. You can be like, if I hate it, I'm hating it, I'm not doing it.
That's how I'm feeling about this. If you're shy and hate group classes, just don't show up.
But listen, easy. I was hoping you picked that.
Oh, no.
That's the point. You have to expose yourself to things. This is literally what you said before. To never give up, to expose yourself more, because that's how you're learning.
Okay. I see your opinion. But then again, if you're very shy to the point where, you hate this sort of group class format, you prefer studying on your own, then you tend to learn quicker and better when you're on your own and when you're not in the group classes.
And speaking to who? Languages, you speak. So if you're learning alone, you're speaking to a wall who is not speaking.
Girl, look, not being in group class is usually how I learn. So, okay, whether it's dictionaries, online sort of forms of learning, or having a tutor, one-to-one sessions are better than group classes because they don't feel pressured. And also, what was I going to say? You don't have to make mistakes in a group class. It gets you into a better person, I guess. But at the same time, you can avoid that. You can avoid embarrassing yourself in a beginner language.
Okay,
not in group classes,
Okay, we can move it back and come back to the last part of my last question. You live in Birmingham, which is constantly labelled as the most dangerous city in the UK. I lived in Southampton, and I also have my own interesting stories. But what's your take on that? Is it more the appearance on the internet, or is it the truth that it's actually dangerous?
Over the last 3 years, maybe, Birmingham has gone downhill quite a lot, I'm not going to lie. There's been a high rise in crime, all sorts of crimes, and you can really see it. If you go to the Birmingham city centre, no matter whether it's, afternoon, evening, nighttime, or even the morning time, you'll always find some, dodgy people walking around. And, there are a lot of homeless people, but it's not just that. It's a lot of weird people walking around the streets with weapons, with all sorts of substances on them, with, you don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know if you're safe 100%. And, it's not what it used to be.
Did you have any situation that made you feel, I need to run?
A few times. I would probably say, as someone who worked in the city centre in the retail side of things, I've kind of seen everything. So I've seen people steal. I've seen, security chasing people. I've seen police. I've seen all sorts, people committing crimes on the day, in front of my eyes. There's been times where, people would come to the store that I work in, steal a lot of products and just run. Or they would start fighting in the store with random customers, out of nowhere, saying they're right or they're right, and then you just sort of have to stand in between them and, you know, how do you say, de-escalate the situation?
Yeah.
Escalate?
Yeah. I know what you mean.
What would you
Hopefully
say?
they know as well.
You just have to like make things a little bit,
Calmer.
yes.
Yeah.
So there's been those times, but also like just in general, as an example, me going out with my friends, having a drink or having a coffee or going shopping, there's always people on the streets just asking random questions. And I don't mean like trying to sell you something or trying to donate, but just in general, random questions. And, you know, it's very uncomfortable. And like even being on trains, it's not as safe as it used to be back in the day. You're always like, you just get weird people everywhere, whether it's they sit deliberately next to you, you know, just sort of look at you like this and like, okay. And I'm just like, they're like right next to the window trying to avoid the situation, and they're just being a bit more leaning towards me. I'm just, you know, I hate those sort of situations because I don't know how to react. I'm just a girl. The way I walk around Birmingham, I put my hood up, I put my, you know, biggest jacket on to look like a man, highest shoes, and I just walk really quick with everything here. Like I just walk like this because I'm scared.
Okay, that's true. How did it affect you as a woman, of course, let's say coming back at night somewhere? Did you do that or not? Coming back your home at night? Or do you avoid that?
I avoid it now. So I've changed my job as well. I don't work in the city centre anymore. I work like 10 minutes away from home, only because, like mainly because of the, you know, the crime and things that's happening in the city. You know, when I used to work, let's say 5 years ago in the city centre, like in one of the clubs, you know, it closes at 4 a.m, let's say. I would go back home with my earphones in, not being oblivious to everything around me, in my heels, getting the first bus back home. You know, when I was like 18 or something, I was crazy. I don't know how I'm still here. But anyway, my point is it was so safe back then. And now I could not even walk like to a certain location without being stopped or without being looked at or without being catcalled or something happening to me, basically.
Yeah.
But back then, earphones, oh, I can't hear anything. I'm just walking to my destination and I'm fine, you know, which is crazy to me to see how much it's changed, because it's never been like this, like that bad.
Wow. Did it ever escalate that you were, I don't know, scared about your life or something, or it didn't get to that point?
I mean, the closest thing that happened would have been a fight that was right next to me. But again, it wasn't involving me, it was involving other people.
Yeah, but you never know.
But yeah, you never know. They might look at you weirdly and then you're involved all of a sudden. So probably that sort of situation, or the ones, like, you know, when you have like the sort of feeling you're being followed or things like that.
True. That's why I don't wear earphones.
I know. But I mean, I don't anymore as well. But it's just like the feeling of being followed wherever you go. So you just try to go a different way, or you always cross the street, or you try to walk, you know, in the most lit up areas as possible, or where there's as much public as possible. But even then, like, for example, like when I said I used to work in retail, even when you had to like report something happened, you know, press the red button, security would come, but they can't do anything. They have to call the police because they're not allowed to touch anyone.
And police won't do anything.
And police won't do anything.
Ridiculous. I had a similar situation. I had one of the most dangerous situations actually in Southampton, because we had our basketball trainings and I was coming back around 11 p.m, I would say. And there was a situation where, you know, because it was so close to my house, the university where we were training, and around, I would say 10, sometimes even 7 minutes. So I wouldn't bother changing myself. I just put something on me and I was going in the shorts. Of course, shorts were not like that, but like still short. And I was going in them, the basketball shorts, so you can see it somewhere on the screen. And I noticed, you know, when you like look like that, you see someone, and I noticed that someone was actually following me and going somewhere like behind me. I had this and spoke about this situation so many times already. At some point, I just stopped behind the building because I thought, okay, just to check if he will maybe pass through me or do something. But he stopped as well at the same time, and I was like, and then I started running. And then this guy started running as well. And I was like, and thank God our door was fixed back then to the building of flats, because it wasn't for a while, but this time it was. So I ran quickly to this, like, you know, opened the door, went in, closed as hard as I could and made sure it was closed. And, I was like, such a weird man. And then I went to this little stairs, but then I still could see the door because you could see this little glass in here. And I saw him knocking, waving, and showing something sharp to me. I'm not going to mention because I don't know how YouTube reacts to such stuff, but something sharp, and smiled. And I was like, also, I didn't think about this as intense. Now I think of it. And I've also thought, such a weird guy. And then I used to work in a psychiatric hospital in Southampton, and he was one of the patients. So I wouldn't say Southampton is safe as well. Or maybe, I don't know, he escaped or something, or, Yeah, that's why I'm never going out on my own.
No way. And the fact that he started running right after you.
Yeah.
Oh my.
It was good that I was good in running. But who knows?
All the training's paid off, but
Yeah.
it shouldn't be coming to that.
We're moving to the recurring segment of every single episode. The previous guest left this. The worst language learning advice is to simply force yourself, because forcing yourself makes you not going to love it. You have to try to belong to the place, try to belong to the tribe, and never force yourself to learn a language. What's your take on that? Do you agree?
It makes sense. Like, you should never feel forced in anything. And when learning a language, it should be more enjoyable rather than forced. And I feel like you naturally tend to learn better when you're enjoying it at the same time.
Yeah. Okay. And what's the worst? I'm not commenting because I don't have to agree. What's now they're gonna think that I believe in forcing yourself. Whatever you. What's the worst language learning method according to you?
Something relating to books, like whether it's reading them or learning the grammar through the books, or just non-stop, seeing paragraph after a paragraph, and you sort of just sat there reading through it like a robot, but nothing's going in your head. That's one of probably my worst learning methods, is just to stare at books all day, every day, and just read them and learn from them. I could not do that.
The last thing is, would you like to be a part of our fake polyglot world? We'll take a picture and